Many people today imagine that Africa was always colonized, or was always the underdog, was always bad news. And that is not the case. The kingdoms of Ghana, of Mali, of Songhai, of Kanem, Borno, were as spectacular as anything that Europe had to show at that time. The question then is, what happened to Africa? If you take, for instance, Benin, the kingdom of Benin in Nigeria, when it was visited in the 16th century by Dutch travelers and traders, we have the words they wrote at the time. They compared Benin, the city of Benin, very favorably with Amsterdam. At that point, there was no question about the European being the boss in Africa. But when you move then to the 19th century, the situation has changed. That Benin that was described in very favorable terms in the 16th century was now called the City of Blood in the 19th century by the British, just before they overran it. And what happened to Africa was simply the devastation of the slave trade. That was what caused the weakening, the devastation of Africa. So that by the end of the 19th century, when Europe decided to take Africa over, it was easy. The consequences of the colonization of Africa go on to this day. The colonization itself was made possible by the devastation of the slave trade which had happened before it. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. You will find all kinds of fancy statements about the Africans selling themselves. In fact, one professor of history at Stanford was saying not so long ago on television, the Europeans did not, they were at the coast, they didn't go inland. The Africans brought their brothers down to the coast. And I want to ask him, what were the Europeans doing in the coast? They came down there with the gun. Once the country had been shattered and destroyed, then anarchy and disorder reigned. And it is so horrendous that it doesn't surprise me that people want to disclaim responsibility, to put it on somebody else, to put it on the victim. If you do something like that, you don't want to accept that you did it. And that's really where we are. It's a very long and tortured story. But someday it will be told. What is literature? What is literature about? Literature is about people. It is the work of people about themselves, people who are attempting to create themselves anew. And if you accept that definition, it stands to reason that Black America, which is really Africa in diaspora, should have the same fundamental concerns as Africans. We are both engaged in the process of creating ourselves again after we had been shaped by others. And we think the time has come to be ourselves again. We are in the same enterprise.
Why do people remember? So that they can determine the truth? For fairness? So they can free themselves and forget? Is it because they understand they're part of a grand event? Or are they looking into the past for cover? All this, despite the fact that memories are very fragile things, ephemeral things. This is not exact knowledge, but a guess that a person makes about himself. It isn't even knowledge. It's more like a set of emotions. We are not prisoners of history. We do not have to look for the meaning of our destiny in history. The weight of history does not determine any of our acts. My emotions. I struggled. I dug deep into my memory.
I couldn't tell because they were all skeletons.
And I remembered.
And the guard just let the dog loose and the dog went right through the jugular and takes out his revolver and he shot it. And I'm standing there. I couldn't. He just shot him.
It is a story that makes us human. And that's why we insist. Whenever we are in doubt about who we are, we go to stories, because this is one thing that we have done in the human race. There's no group that doesn't do it. It seems to be central to the very nature of, to the very, very fact of our humanity, to tell who we are. whether we are human, or even more commonly, whether other people are human with us. It is in the story that we get this continuity of this affirmation that you are human and that your humanity is contingent on the humanity of your neighbor.
We lost a number of our grandchildren. We lost our son, our daughter's son, our son's son, our brother-in-law's son, our nephew. We lost 38 members of our family in total. We lost men, we lost women, we lost pregnant women, we lost babies, we lost children, we lost mothers, we lost teachers, we lost builders, we lost intellectuals, we lost doctors, we lost artists, we lost history, we lost our stories, we lost our strength, we lost our sanity, we lost our virginity, we lost our courage, we lost our pride, we lost faith, we lost confidence, we lost peace, we lost love, we lost our past, we lost our future, we lost our mind, we lost our humanity, we lost ourselves, we lost. When shells rain down, real people die, living people grieve, they sing and dance, clean the streets and tend to their wounds. Life goes on.
To stop shaking, but I don't have to control myself. What is happening to me? What is wrong with me, doctor?
about the Nigerian Federation, the possibility of its dissolution,
Yes.
the possibility of serious trouble, but not taking the form which it did take. When I saw the government falling, for instance, because it was hopelessly corrupt, and military intervention when nothing else seemed possible. But I didn't foresee anything like the massacres and the present situation. Practically everybody here had something that touched him.
Mm-hmm.
I lost a few relations. I had to run away from Lagos because it was not safe. Soldiers went to where I worked to look for me. So I still gave the thing 2 weeks to make sure whether it was just a handful of people getting out of hand. But it wasn't. It seemed like a well-planned and coordinated program, so I fled like many other people.
There are bad stories too. You see, because it's not only good people who make stories. Bad people make their own stories too. And the conversation between the bad and the good is also helpful to us. The bad stories should not be drowned out. It will simply be shown to be bad stories. False stories can only be shown to be false when they are told and they are placed beside others that are not, that are more truthful. And we search, in this way we go, we inch forward. You see, the progress of humanity is very, very slow.
African independence is a myth. You see, there's really very little independence here. When people say, for instance, this is an African problem, let's leave it to them, they are being dishonest. When Britain says, for instance, this is an African problem, or Wilson says this is an African problem, he is being grossly dishonest, because if they thereafter left the matter to Africans, it would be another matter. But they say that in public, and then they go around and supply arms to one side of the conflict. So it's not. In fact, they're not leaving this matter to be solved by Africans, so it doesn't make sense.
Amen. you, remain calm in your position. At the same time, you will not be afraid to have a problem change.
One day, somebody came to me in the hospital after I had this accident. And what he said, the question he asked me was, why you? Why would this happen to you? So I said, I didn't think twice. I said to him, do you have an idea of somebody else to whom it should have happened? And what I was saying is that our world is tragic by nature. And that's why tragic stories appeal to me. It doesn't happen to somebody because of a crime they committed, a crime that their people committed. All this, these are all possible ways of trying to explain suffering. It is his great-grandfather who did it. It's not that. That's not true. The great religions ultimately deal with this. That you cannot explain suffering in terms of guilt. And for me, that is a very, very important development. It was something I knew intellectually, but I never thought I would one day not be able to walk, you see. So it really brings it home to you, and your whole attitude is affected. So that's what I mean by saying that the world is upside down. The world is not well arranged. It's not well arranged, and therefore there's no way we can be happy with it. I look at the world, and the space allowed me in the way the world is organized is inadequate. Wherever I look, whichever direction I look, and I don't want to stay in that space because it is stifling. A poet who sees poetry in the light in which I'm suggesting is likely to fall out very seriously with the emperor, and whereas a poet in the West might say, oh no, we have no business with politics, we have no business with history, we have no business with anything, just what is in our own mind, the emperor would be very, very happy. Because the storyteller has a different agenda from the emperor.
Patrice Lumumba, Jomo Kenyatta, Milton Obote, Toussaint Louverture, France Fanon, Olufumi Lion Ransom Kuti, Fela Nicolas Kuti.
That the black man here survived through music is in fact the most eloquent testimony to the value and the use of art. So the raising of the social consciousness of Africans is precisely what you have to do to bring about that recreation of man in Africa or wherever.
For whom are we searching? For whom are we searching? For searching. Has he gone for firewood? Let him return. Has he gone to fetch water? Let him return. Has he gone to the marketplace? Let him return. For Kibo, we are searching. For whom are we searching? For whom are we searching? For Kibo, we are searching. Has he gone for firewood? May Ujubeko not take him. Has he gone to the stream? May Iyi not follow him. Has he gone to the market? Then keep from him, you tumult of the marketplace. Has he gone to battle? Please, they bring home a dance. Please to dance it for us. They bring home who will fight it? The one we call repeatedly. There is something here. So Kibo, we are calling. Witness the dance. How it arrives. The war. How it has been. The color of the dance. The brave one is nowhere inside. Do you not see now who we call again and again? There is something he alone can do. The dance ends abruptly. The spirit dancers fold their dance and depart in midday. Rain soaks the stalwart, soaks the two-sided drum. The flute is broken that elevates the spirit. The music pot shattered that accompanies the leg in its measure. Brave one of my blood, brave one of Igbo land, brave one in the middle of so much blood, owner of riches in the dwelling place of spirit. Okibo is the one for whom I'm searching. Nzomalizo. Why is Okonkwo with us today? This is not his clan. We are only his mother's kinsmen. He does not belong here. He is an exile, condemned for 7 years to live in a strange land. And so he is bowed with grief. But there is one question I would like to ask him. Can you tell me, Okonkwo, why it is that one of the commonest names we give our children is Neka, or Mother is Supreme? We all know that a man is the head of the family, and his wives do his bidding. A child belongs to its father and his family, not to his mother and her family. A man belongs to his fatherland, not his motherland. And yet, we say Neka, Mother is Supreme. Why is that? There was silence. I want Okonkwo to answer me, said Uchendo. I do not know the answer, Okonkwo replied. You do not know the answer? So you see, you are a child. You have many wives and many children, more children than I have. You are a great man in your clan, but you are still a child. My child. Listen to me and I shall tell you. But first, there's one more question I shall ask you. Why is it that when a woman dies, she is taken home to be buried with her own kinsmen? She's not buried with her husband's kinsmen. Why is that? Your mother was brought home to me here and buried with my people. Why was that? Okonkwo shook his head. He does not know that either, said Uchendo. And yet, he is full of sorrow because he has come to live in his motherland for a few years. He laughed a mirthless laughter and turned to his sons and daughters. What about you? Can anyone answer the question? They all shook their heads. Then listen to me, he said, and cleared his throat. It's true that a child belongs to his father, but when a father beats his child, it seeks sympathy in its mother's heart. A man belongs to his fatherland when things are good and life is sweet. But when there is sorrow and bitterness, he finds refuge in his motherland. Your mother is there to protect you. She is buried there. And that is why we say that Mother is supreme. Is it right that you, Okonkwo, should bring to your mother
a heavy face and refuse to be comforted. Be careful, or you may displease the dead. Your duty is to comfort your wives and children and take them back to your fatherland after 7 years. But if you allow sorrow to weigh you down and kill you, they will all die in exile. He paused for a long while. These are now your kinsmen. He waved at his sons and daughters. You think you are the greatest sufferer in the world? Do you know that men are sometimes banished for life? Do you know that men sometimes lose all their yams and even their children? I had 6 wives once. I have none now, except that young girl who doesn't know her right from her left. Do you know how many children I have buried? Children I begot in my youth and strength? 22. I did not hang myself, and I am still alive. If you think you are the greatest sufferer in the world, ask my daughter, Akweni, how many twins she has born and thrown away. Have you not heard the song they sing when a woman dies? For whom is it well? For whom is it well? There is no one for whom it is well. Omakalonye, Omakalonye, Onwelonyo dilema. I have no more to say to you.
We are the stars that sing. We sing with our light. We are the birds of fire. We fly over the sky. Our light is a voice. We make a road for the spirit to pass over. For the spirit to pass over. We are like the wind, wrapped in luminous wings. We make a road for the spirit to pass over, for the spirit to pass over.
Many people think that what I'm doing is praising the position of women. It's not, it's very opposite. What I was doing was pointing out how unjust the Igbo society is to women, and how better to exploit than to make the hero of the story, Okonkwo, all his problems are problems to do with the feminine. There's nothing else wrong with Okonkwo except his failure to understand that the gentleness, the compassion which we associate with women is even more important than strength. Very insistent on this, that there is no absolute anything. Even good things, they are against excess.
Their world is a world of duality. It is good to be brave, they say, but also remember that the coward survives the brave man. If you take up any newspaper here, I mean, you probably wouldn't see Africa at all mentioned for months. Then perhaps one day a year, it is some strange story. It has to be that kind of story that we've come to associate with Africa. And I would simply say, look at Africa as a continent of people. There are people there, just people. They are not devils, they are not angels, they're just people. And listen to them.